am Mr. Rajesh Kumar. I am here addressing you today for giving me this opportunity to address you. And I was sitting there and then was listening to all the tech talk. And I always think when I go to a tech kind of a meeting, either I'll be a complete misfit or I'll be a complete fit. So today, before talking, I'll give you the perspective and context that I always think. I know we all know about two kinds of people. One is the digital immigrant and one is the digital native. And most of us, at least my age and above my age, are digital immigrants. Like we came from an era where mobile wasn't there, other things were in there. I might look young, but when I talk about an era, because these things happened very shortly and very fast. So when I look at this conference on business intelligence and advanced analytics on big data, did these not exist before? Like, did people not very intelligent about business? Did people did not have big data? Did people did not analyze them to take business decisions? If you ask me, yes, they did. I'll tell you a classical example. In 1990, it looks long back now, 24 years before, I joined the multinational pharma company and in India, and we had in those days, MNCs used to thrive on 3-4 products, not many. And one of our products came under drug price control order, and when the DPCO happens, it cuts the price from tomorrow morning. Like you imagine one of our number one products, which gives us 90% top line, bottom line, is going to sell at half the price from next day. So imagine. So this is a business, a real business. Now you need to solve this. These are the kind of situations businesses get into often. Either you are into, even take Microsoft for example. Like people cloud came and they resisted, and now Google is even going back with the book Chromebook to eat the other thing. So what I'm saying is this: none of this is new, but how we handle it, how we talk about it, how we think about it is very important. So I always say to all these tech companies, for a moment, please think that there were businesses before you and there are going to be businesses later. The period in which we are in, there are a few technologies which really helps make it happen faster, better kind of a thing. So that's where you need to pitch in and then say, here I have a technology which can make it better, which can make it smoother, kind of a thing. So when I talked about the healthcare pharma company, so what did they do? There was a product executive who said, okay, the only way is you can't get a new chemical entity tomorrow morning and grow those. The only thing is when the product price is cut, naturally the volume has to go up. So how do you take it up? By just going and shouting at the customer or telling them, no, my price has been cut, so give me 2 prescriptions instead of 1. It's not going to solve, because he is not dishing out some vegetable. He is writing prescriptions on a medication. So what he did, the product executive did, is called the 1,500, 2,000 representatives into a place and then said, look guys, I have got 10 questions. I am going to give it to you and you have to go to the market and ask these 10 questions to the customers. Now, take down all the answers as they are. Don't interpret them. Okay? If the doctor says, I don't have time for these stupid questions, write it down. If he says, whatever, you are a fool, write it down. If he gives you an answer, write it down. Kind of a thing. This exercise, we did 2 campaigns. A campaign is generally 3 months. So we did 6 months of this campaign. And because I cannot go into a doctor's chamber who is a very educated, learned person who is busy and ask him 10 questions. The practicality is I can ask him 2 or 3 questions maximum. So we made it in such a way that we will ask these 10 questions within that 6 months and leave out the questions which we had already asked, and we will report it. Okay? In those days, reporting system is when I post it, it reaches after a week or whatever it is, the whole company from 1,500 representatives, 6 months of answers, they collected it. Then they analyzed it. Then came out with 2 campaigns which actually made the product grow 20 times in volume. So what are we talking about? Now we are talking about he gained some business intelligence out of some big data. Big data is very diverse, is very unstructured. That's what you get from representatives when they post it. So all the factors that we are discussing about had been there. And they made business decisions which made the business grow 20 times more. So So what has changed? That's what we will talk about when we talk about new technologies. This is one. And second thing is, don't think that I'm hard hitting. I'm coming from experience. I'm saying this. Whenever I say when technologists go and promote their product, it's like R.K. Narayan's Horse and Two Goats. The story goes like this. I don't know how many of you have read Horse and Two Goats. Foreigner comes in, sees an equestrian statue, a horse statue, beautiful statue in a village, and then there are two goats tied to the equestrian statue, and there is a villager sitting next to it. So the foreigner thinks he owns the statue and starts talking about the horse. And this guy thinks, oh, my two goats are tied, so he wants the goats, and he talks explaining about the goats. And the whole conversation beautifully goes. There is continuity in the horse, there is continuity in the goats, and it's beautifully merged. And finally, this guy offers some money. That guy takes it and then says, who will pay so much for two goats? And runs home. And this guy thinks, okay, this guy has given me the permission to take it, and then releases the goats. Okay, he goes home and then tells his wife, because he thinks the foreigner will change his mind, come back, give the money, and leave the goats back. So he says, if somebody comes, tell I'm not at home, kind of. And after some time, they hear the goats sound, and he is really terrible. So coming back to our story, I always find technologists and a customer talk like horse and two goats in many situations. So the companies that I'm advising, I tell them, look, stop. Before you talk about your technology, see where they come from. If you go to Unilever, Nestle, Glaxo, Bristol Myers, you're not going to teach them business. Telling that, I'll tell you, in 2003, I was part of a sales team, and much against our wish, our CEO had arranged a CRM guy to talk to us. Okay, CRM. See, I'll tell you, one of the most successful products for business is CRM, and that has been buried and killed in India much before the concept could come in. Actually, the homegrown CRM guys killed the concept much before it had a chance. I'm saying this very strongly because I have been a party to watching them. So these guys come in, and then see, all of us sitting there in the room at least would have had 10 to 15 years of experience in sales and marketing, all successful guys who from scratch have built $16 million, $18 million businesses, and this guy comes with CRM and then teaches us how to sell. That's the last thing we want to hear. And he thinks by putting his crap on our system, it's going to generate sales. Give me a break. If you're going to try and sell me CRM like that, and I'll tell you, when we voted, all the guys did not vociferously stood up and then said, it's all crap, you get lost. They didn't say because our CEO was there. Otherwise, after that, 16 guys voted, and none of them recommended that we will go with it. That was a disaster. But I could understand the guy because he was not trying to map our sales to the tools, rather he was teaching us sales. So this happens with all the technology companies. See, companies even as recent as 2 months back, a healthcare company, tech healthcare, that's the latest buzzword. Okay, the technology guys think they know healthcare and come in with a product and they want to sell. They think they have projections, they have funding, they have everything. And then after 6 months you ask them what happened, they go nowhere. Because they think they are inventing healthcare. Come on. One more, see, the problem is the new IT technology companies think they are solution to everything. They are not. They can enable many things. They have a beautiful place. I am an IT evangelist, tech evangelist, but that doesn't mean that IT can solve every problem on earth. This is one. So these guys were pitching to me. So I was asking him, in your board, in your team, who knows healthcare? If you have been with some multinational IT company, have worked in one project of healthcare, and that too on few 6 months, that doesn't mean you know healthcare. You know healthcare when you have gone and sat with a doctor, seeing how he treats patients, what kind of questions he asks, what kind of answers they give, how he struggles to get those answers, and then how he has continuity with those patients. If you know that reality, then come back work on your healthcare product, it makes a lot of sense. Okay, now I'll stop. So this is the theme context that I always talk. I'm a business guy. I look at everything that you say with respect to so what. Okay, you have great thing, big analytics. advanced analytics. So what? What is the business intelligence we are getting about it? How can I use it? Can I start small and grow big? Not enter the whole thing. It is never a 0 or 100 game. Most of the technologies, people who want to sell it as 0 or 100. It need not be. There can be a trial. There can be a small part of it. So coming back to today's talk, so I'll be talking about two topics. One is crowdsourcing and another is big data with respect to businesses, with respect to how we look at it from the business point of view. Okay, this is what Robert Frost said. The world is full of willing people and some willing to work and the rest willing to let them. This is in a nutshell crowdsourcing. So if I have to explain, see, because crowdsourcing, people who work are all working on their spare time with their additional skills, with their additional capacities. So I would buy this statement for crowdsourcing. And then this I would say for big data, or crowdsourcing meets big data. See, computers are incredibly fast, accurate and stupid. Human beings are incredibly slow, inaccurate and brilliant. But together they can make a big scene, big growth factor. Okay, talking about me, I do two things. One is reimagine the business. I don't say redefine or something like that, just imagine. See, most of the business technologies are about a situation is there, a problem is there, there is a new technology, mixing it up, or you see some solutions in one industry, bring it to another industry, try to adjust. So when you reimagine what you know to a situation, it becomes business growth. And then I always say connecting the social dots. I was actually worried, the tech discussion that was going on, but the IBM speaker bridged it to a large extent. There is something called SOCBiz now, hashtag SOCBIZ that you can search and you will get a lot of material. It's about connecting the social dots. The four social dots that we talk about is social, cloud, mobile and big data. These four stand alone. If you have strategies, it does not work for business. So now there is a convergence of all these four, and that's called SOCBiz or social business. And really companies are concentrating there. And I always say for Indian enterprises and businesses, you don't need to go back, start with standalone strategies and then come. You can look at 5 years later where the whole technology or the convergence is going and you go there. It is similar to something like we did not have penetration of landline, but we switched to mobile. India switched to mobile without going through the process of landline. So the same way businesses can switch to SOCBiz. I talk about these two because the whole thing, somebody was telling, the whole technology is about open source, that's what. I generally do not give much of IT examples because of the fact that people think, okay, it's for IT, it's not for me. The moment we give big examples of IT, people get a little alienated because it's too much of jargons, it's difficult to understand. So I generally give other equivalent examples. And this open innovation theme, I give a lot of examples from pharma because R&D is one of the toughest in pharma, and innovation, if pharma can adopt something, I think every other industry can, because it's the patent, everything involved in pharma is so complex. So open innovation theme, if it can be sold, if it can be defined, if it can be modeled for pharma, everything else comes as a cakewalk. So crowdsourcing and big data both are the central themes of open innovation. Understanding the science of open innovation. This is a fusion reactor. A web developer has done fusion at home, and he has used open hardware, open software, crowdfunding, everything, and has done. So if somebody can do fusion at home by way of open innovation, by way of open thing, anything on earth is possible. And he is a web developer, he is not a developer. So these things like, people don't use now the term scientist, they are saying problem solvers. He need not be an educated guy, but he comes into the crowdsourcing mode and then he gives a solution, which is of course picked up by scientists and worked on and all that stuff. So I give this as an example. If this can happen, I think anything can happen in open innovation and crowdsourcing. Okay, This is a definition I like about open innovation, is about systematically encouraging, exploring a wide range of internal and external sources, consciously integrating that exploration with firm capabilities and resources, and exploiting those opportunities through multiple channels. See, there are three parts to open innovation. One is continuously encouraging internal and external sources. Second thing, most important in open innovation, is it has to match your firm capabilities. Otherwise, you will go nowhere. That can be a brilliant idea. I always say to startups, you are now chasing sales. Now suppose you have a 2-team member and all that stuff. Suppose 5 lakh people become your customers tomorrow morning. Maybe your cloud can manage it, your IT part can manage it, but can you manage it, serving those 5 lakh customers? Kind of a question. So I always say integrate it with your firm's capabilities and what resources you have, and then exploiting through multi-channels. So about crowdsourcing, all of us know Jeff Ho coined this term in 2006 called crowdsourcing, and he is widely quoted whenever we talk about crowdsourcing. He said crowd is dispersed. They are not location dependent. From anywhere in the world with all the technologies that we have, they can participate. And second thing is they have short attention span. They are not full-time employees. They are not going to work with you as a commitment. You give a small task or a project, they are going to do it and then get out of it. So they are like that. It's full of specialists. Again, specialists not necessarily qualified, but crowd produces mostly crap and crowd finds the best stuff. These two might look contradictory, but the question is like, when you get all that and allow again crowd to filter or vote, you get the best stuff out of it. The other day in the SICKI conference, I was talking about crowdsourcing. I said about the BP oil spill in Gulf. There were some 120,000 suggestions that came to stop that oil spill. None of them worked. And out of that, 46,000 they had to filter it using analysts and all that. So it can be a big crap. Also, crowdsourcing for what, with whom do you go determines your success, rather than, not everybody, like they say, I have a small company, I want to design this logo. Suppose I go crowdsourcing and there are some 500 entries that come. Can I look at 500 entries for my small company logo? It's not possible. Rather, I'll ask some 6-7 associates that I'm working with and then ask them, give me. So 6-7 I can manage. So it's about what you can manage. So crowd, this is the characteristic of the crowd. These are some of the well-defined crowdsourced tasks. As we said, no, there are some human tasks which are better done by humans. So these are some of them: entity resolution, image annotation, audio transcription, sentiment analysis, document summary. These are classic categorization of what crowdsourcing comes into. And then what is big data? This is not the place to talk about big data, because right from morning you have been talking about it, but I like this definition of big data. Data that is too large to process and manage using conventional database methodologies. Big data has numerous attributes in addition to its large size, including it is typically unstructured and often dispersed. See, the pharma example that I quoted fits this. It is dispersed, the 1,500 representatives going into 500 doctors. Imagine, multiply and see where are these doctors and how unstructured it is, and how you don't have a system to collate this. So it took something like 8 months for my product executive in those days to come out with those 2 campaigns, collating and making a business decision. That is where today all these technologies can make it. You don't need to wait for 8 months, maybe in 1 month you will come out with the business intelligence. So it is not that you can replace those business intelligence. It is not that you can replace those solutions. It is about how you do it now. So this I like as a big data definition. And then who are the winners in big data? So everybody knows on a daily basis so much tens and thousands and millions are generated. But how to effectively filter, what to do with it, and how to monetize. These are the 3 things that gives you an answer with big data. See, I always say that even before all these things, you start from objectives. That is where I differ. I had to go hard hitting to my technology people. Don't start with end results. Start with objectives. Start with activities, map it to your tools, and then map it to metrics, map it to whatever rest of it you talk. But if you don't do the first part of it, See, customer knows only the first part, and he is not going to map. And without, see, he sits thinking about his own problem all the time when we talk about technologies. So that extra mile, if those technology companies can go, see, I always say, 6 years I have been in this field. Before that, I have always been with corporates doing the business part of it in marketing and sales. But I always say, no, those guys have a problem, these guys have a solution. But there is something missing in a big way. So we always say, no, there are guys who have got dollars who want solutions. There are guys who need the dollars who have solutions. But you should know where the dollar comes from, where it goes, stand in between and you can get that kind of a situation. Has big scope today. Because on one side, there are a lot of structures, there are a lot of models, there are a lot of good, very good systems of big data and analytics and all that. Businesses have no clue how they can tap into it. So what you have to show them is this, and then you really have to map their objectives to these three. Then it sets. So how big is big data? I like this again because the scope of big data, like somebody was saying, nobody knows, it's not like that. I think it's going to change everything that we have seen. And big enough to change humanity in ways we are only beginning to understand. A lot of people, and I'm one of them, believe that big data is going to have a much bigger impact on civilization than even the internet, because it's everything. It's everything. I have seen many companies who have got a wealth of data not getting an iota out of it. That's where the whole conference theme is about. So my only request, he gave me a good opportunity to put a perspective to the whole conference today, saying that this will happen only when, I don't say, I talk about technology and those guys are business guys, when they come together and then find a via media from objectives to these solutions, then this will happen. Okay, this is I have not put where I have quoted from because the website name itself is this, humanfaceofbigdata.com. You can go and you can read up a lot of examples. And one story, for instance, is about Bill Gates Foundation using satellite data to combat polio in Nigeria. And they have given data which the government doesn't know such villages existed. So that's the power of data. So I have, we participated some time back. I really love the Gates Foundation because the way in which they approach. After a long time, I'm always very skeptical about the technologists coming out with problem definition, because whatever he wants to sell, he defines a problem that way. But Gates Foundation, if you see their problem definition papers, it's brilliant, really brilliant. You wouldn't say that they are have a background of technology, because recently they had asked to build an app which will reduce TB. Like it has to be a common man usable kind of stuff. We tried to build an app and we passed 2 rounds, but after that, those guys who are actually doing it figured it out better, so we did not. So what I'm saying is, you find them, I will quote them as an example for this bridge between problems and solutions. They attempt it in the right way, and you can read up a lot of papers from them, white papers from them, and problem definition papers from them. And then if you can do it for your own company the similar way, I think it's a big, big win. So this is one of the examples, human face of big data. So where does it come from? And then, again I said that because that's where crowdsourcing meets big data, because crowdsourcing is about the human part. It's about the brilliance part. The rest of it comes from mission. So this area, I think one of the speakers touched about it. I was not sure about that. Integrating machine learning into crowdsourcing workflows. See, this is very, very important. Crowd is a set of people who are ready to attempt the problem. Now, the company has a problem. There are some systems in between. So, in this workflow, you have to build both machine and humans. Like for example, as I said, if I have a process where I can take 500 logos, and then that process can decide and give me 3, I can still take 500. So there is an algorithmic talent to create solution. This logo example might look very small, but if you look at healthcare problems and all that, or I'll show you an example for this exactly. So there is a huge demand for building algorithmic talent between the crowd and between the machine. I'll give you an example. See, this is a research project at MIT where there are a lot of images. So the query is sent to database. Now this has to be tagged. So which has to be sent to the crowd, which has to be sent to the machine. This is something they have built an algorithm so that the algorithm decides which will be crowdsourced, which will be managed by machine, and then the whole thing is returned. See, there are some tasks which humans are extremely good at, and for crowdsourcing, data is a very, very good task because it's definite and it can be attended to with the right skill. So big data goes very well with crowdsourcing because I have a lot of example of platforms where they take a huge chunk of work and then divide it into small data chunks and then give it to crowd and then get it back again, collate it and give it to you. So for a person who gives that huge problem and then getting a solution, it is amazing. But actually what they have done is integrated crowdsourcing into this machine learning of making it to smaller chunks. So there are a lot of algorithmic work that is going on in that area, and that's a good model to think about where you integrate machine and the crowd to get what you want, and those processes are coming up. This is a beautiful research project at MIT which you can check out. It's a very good example for crowdsourcing big data. Okay, talking about enterprise crowdsourcing and big data. See, for big data operation, crowd workers could perform a variety of tasks. See, data entry is at the low level. Cleansing data is slightly above. Validation is still above. So you make it like this, hierarchy of jobs, and then give it to the crowd. And enterprise crowdsourcing big data may be a good match because of the data related work. I just said that. Data related work is always easier for crowd because it can be broken down into tasks or projects. Okay, I said it will change humanity and all that stuff. We talked about big data changing humanity. One of the classic examples is nuclear proliferation. The world is struggling to understand how to attend to that. So if you see the challenges, nuclear operations are always covered operations. It's not open. And then the testing calibrations, even if you can pick up those emanations, radiations and all that, they calibrated into such a level where it is less than the threshold, so your conventional things will not pick it up. And then ambiguous, non-traditional technologies, it's not like with the modern technologies. And then how to make, as I said, nuclear fusion somebody did at home. So that is widespread, knowledge is no more secretive. And then not all countries will give you access to go check and all that stuff. So in this problematic nuclear proliferation scenario, see how big data gives you solutions. Traditional radiation sensors can help to an extent, but the data gathered from cyber domain, it's very, very rich. What they can get from just by looking at the domain, cyber domain, is really, really a rich and exploitable source. This is from Defense Science Board. They have proved it by saying that. I'll give you another example how they proved it. And then big data analytics with proliferation of potential data sources. See, this potential data, there are so many data sources today. One is satellite imaging, one is people talking about it online. So there are so many data sources which can be bridged, collated and then looked at with the traditional radiation sensors. So this augments, already there is a limited capability, so this adds to it and this becomes a very, very, very vital part of future. This is the proof of concept. Okay, this is a Washington Post elaborate paper on it, and some of the students undertook this exercise and then shed light on China's system of. It was known that China, whatever capability that they are saying, they are building much more than that, and the world was very skeptical about it, and these guys have really proved that it could be many, many more times than what they are disclosing. So there is a 363-page study sitting where they are. So that's the potential for big data. 363-page, which proved that it could be many times larger, and the students had compiled a searchable database of more than 1.4 million words on the second artillery, and it's done. It was denied by China. This is a huge example that you can read up about. See what big data can do, what crowdsourcing can do. People, little bit of information from everybody, and put together, analyzed, can give you such big pictures. See, I have taken huge examples so that if such things, nuclear proliferation and these things can be attended to, imagine definitely businesses are much smaller in terms of data, in terms of what we need to achieve. This is another citizen-led. See, I have taken this because in the crowdsourcing spectrum, the examples that are shown are very big. In the big data spectrum also, the examples that I am showing are very, very big. So these put together, if they can work, of course, other things will automatically work. So this is the citizen-led crowdsourcing roadmap for the cyber big data project. So they had put census, economic, historic, planning, insurance, scientific, financial content, all crowdsourced. Little bit of information from 1940s to now and then to the future. They have built the whole thing, urban planning, the project was called, and the whole thing has been done by merging crowdsourcing and big data. I'll leave it here, and any questions particularly to crowdsourcing or big data from the business side, you can tweet it to my ID. And what I again want to put the context and perspective here is, think about business. Think about, be in the shoes of the business guys and talk. I have been pained many times, and I have taken up this exercise of being in the middle for the last 6 years, and I am doing extremely well because the moment technology is spoken about, people are like thinking that there is something huge that is being imposed on me, and the whole thing has to be into breakable chunks. And I always say to my technology friends, it is neither 0 nor 100. The guy starts with something and then goes. One very good example I'll say is, to a lot of my clients, I tell them who use the normal laptops and all that. When I introduce cloud to them, I say, okay, forget about everything, buy a Chromebook and start working with that. Because it has 16 GB storage space, he cannot store anything. So everything has to go to cloud, and he has to be dependent on browser. He has to work online. So after 3 months, he thinks, why do I need all that? Why did I build my data like that? Why do I? So sometimes what we do is we don't teach them everything. We just give them the solution in a form which they can take. And I always tell them, you keep the other laptop with you. Whenever you are not comfortable, note it down what you are not comfortable with and use that. And then I have never found anybody going back after moving to cloud, going back and then buying real hardware or whatever it is. Because these businesses always have a worry when we go there to sell, that we are more interested in selling them rather than providing solutions for them. So I request all tech people to sit down and break it down into simple business jargons, or the way in which people can understand, and then take forward all your products, all your big data and analytics. And I'm really happy that I was given this, because the first 2 cloud workshop that happened in India, I was part of the hosting, and then when everybody was talking about cloud and structures, tags and all that stuff, somebody asked, all this is fine, I'm a business guy, I don't understand anything, so what is in it for me? So luckily I was there, and I had put up a session called what's in it for me, and we did that. So every conference that I go, I try to balance it out by putting it this way rather than, and I have great respect for all those technologies. They are really solving important issues and making businesses much easier, better, faster, whatever you can call it. So thank you very much. Thanks.